On this episode of History Hunters, we'll visit the historical town of Copperopolis in the foothills of Central California. I'll tell you about the copper mine here, which helped the Union defeat the Confederates during the Civil War, check out some old mine equipment, and visit some old buildings like the 1864 Union Guard Armory. I'll also show you where actor Michael Landon filmed an episode of Highway to Heaven here at this old gas station back in 1984. Stay tuned to the end and we'll show you the latest new draw to Copperopolis. Hi, so welcome to this episode of History Hunters. You couldn't tell by looking at this tiny little burg of Copperopolis that this was the second largest producer of copper for the Union forces during the Civil War. About 1860, they discovered copper ore here. They shipped it back east to Boston and to Wales, and it was processed to make shell casings to be fired upon the Confederate forces during the Civil War. So from 1860 to about 1867, this town really took off. Had about 4,000 residents at one time. Basically, Copperopolis was a company town. The folks here were so pro-Union that they almost named this town Union. That brick building over there is the Union Guard Armory, established in 1864. And this sign right here tells you that it was the training center for the Copperopolis Union Guard, the 3rd Brigade. Records show 18 men enlisted in the Union forces, giving Copperopolis as their home. Muster of September 10th, 1864 names 71 men and 13 officers in the Guard unit. This is the original building that housed the Union Armory. Now the reason that they had to protect this town is because the copper ore was of great use and great value and was subject to theft and possibly even acts of terrorism by the Confederates. It was built in 1866 for $8,000 and used as the Union Guard for enlisting and training troops. Now, I've been told that the bricks that were used in this building came from the community of Columbia. Every time they had to tear down a building, they would reuse the bricks. It's also been said that right here is evidence of one of the bricks being burned and the fires up there. And I see some square-headed nails here, so I'm sure that over the years they have nailed a lot of flyers to the front. I'm looking for some bullet holes too. A lot of nails in that. Iron doors, of course, to keep out fires and keep out theft. Some of the bricks do look burned. That would indicate fire. So right across from the Armory over here was the Plaza. We're parked over there. Sarah's in the car. Main Street here was lined with a lot of businesses, a lot of hotels. As you can tell, everything is gone, but this was the hub of the town. Homes, hotels, saloons, livery stables, rooming houses, racetracks, 3 schools, churches, of course the Armory, and even a bowling alley were built here. At its zenith, Copperopolis had over 4,000 residents, even had a local newspaper called the Copperopolis Courier. And there's a dog over there that doesn't like my presence. So this brick building is now the Calaveras Olive Oil Company store. It was actually built in 1861 and was the Reed General Merchandise Store. It was kind of the preeminent merchandising establishment here in Copperopolis. It was the only 2-story brick building ever constructed in the community. In fact, there are only 7 brick buildings in Copperopolis that were ever built. This is one of them. Of the 7, only 4 still remain. And the store sold all kinds of goods to the people in town. It was eventually purchased by the Union Copper Company in 1905 and turned into their offices. And over here is the Honigsberger General Store. It's the typical commercial brick buildings that you see up here in the Mother Lode that was constructed in the 1850s or 1860s. But This one here was built in 1866, and the store sold all kinds of goods to the people in town. It was eventually purchased by the Union Copper Company in 1905. Iron doors that look like they might be more recent ones. They're pretty well preserved. And looks like they have a basement here. Right behind me is a building that a lot of people think was the old town jail, but Copperopolis never had a jail. In fact, if you got arrested here, they had to take you up to, I believe, Angel's Camp. But this building right back here looks like it could be a jail. It's actually a storehouse. It certainly has all the earmarkings of a jail. Looks like it's made of local rock, of course. And look at the old iron doors on it. Whoever was here to use these locks way back, been long gone. This is what the inside of it looks like. It's just a stack of rocks for the walls. It looks like there was tent covering it at one time. Now it looks like that the cemented the rocks together with just adobe. It stayed pretty good. I mean, imagine that this thing is probably 150 years old. Right behind here, it looks like there's a road. This is actually the old stage route. I would imagine that Black Bart himself took stage routes right through here on his way to Funk Hill. I'm actually on a big hill of tailings from the old mine. It's pretty steep here. I thought I was going to go to the top, but I don't know if this is a good location for it. But imagine all these rocks here. This big hill of rock. It's from that mining operation back in the 1860s. Crazy. And the plaza was down here. It's pretty slick and dangerous with loose rock. And wasn't exactly smart to try this because I'm about ready to fall. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. And it's been raining recently, so it's pretty wet. There's actually an opportunity to go up a giant hill of tailings here. At the top there's some relics of old buildings that are associated with the Union mine, and there's some equipment up here as well. Here's one of the pieces of equipment. If I'm not wrong, that looks like a boiler of some sort. It's really amazing to think a lot of the stuff that they left behind is still here. I believe they basically ended all the mining operations in the late 40s. There's the footings for probably a mine building here right behind the old Corner Saloon. No amount of rust remover is going to free those bolts. Even the washers. Oh, the washers are actually free. Crazy. This must have been where the double drum hoist works were located. Now it's just a place where people have been accustomed to vandalizing. There's the back of the old Corner Saloon. It's one of the wooden buildings that withstood the test of time and all the fires that ravaged Copperopolis. The building's been long associated with Black Bart, and it's said that he either stayed there or drank there. Now keep in mind that when he came over here to rob the stage at Funk Hill in 1875 and 1883, he was living in San Francisco, and it's a mystery as to how he got over here. I'm sure he rode stages to get here and then walked on foot to the location where he actually robbed the stagecoach. This big stack of tailings extends for 2 miles, and it goes all the way down to that part of Copperopolis where there was another mining operation. There were at least 6 or 7 major mines, but the major mines for the Keystone Mine and the Union Mine. The Union Mine being in this location right here. So when you think about the mining operations that started here in the 1860s, it seems like it was a long time, and it was 160 years ago. However, the mining here stopped in about 1947. And if you think about it, that's my dad's era. My dad was 7 years old when they stopped mining here. Check it out. Look at this old truck with an old tub on it. Old Corner Saloon. Check that out. That's a throwback to a different era. So right there is the old Corner Saloon, dates back to 1862. It's been rumored that Black Bart himself drank here. Now I'm assuming that before he robbed the stagecoach, that he had to drink here to muster up the courage to do that dirty deed. Now it's been said that the upstairs was basically a whorehouse. There was a soda parlor in the first floor. There was a butler set up, and in the downstairs it was a speakeasy during the Prohibition years. Here at this old gas station, you will see something you don't see every day. That's a payphone. And this building over here, the brick in front looks like it's probably dates back to, I would guess, the 1930s or 40s, like a gas station. But this is where I wanted to highlight. It's Mike's garage, but Michael Landon used it for the filming of an episode of Highway to Heaven.
Can I help you?
You bet. Fill her up, will you, Earl?
You bet.
It almost ran out of gas last night. Would have been pretty embarrassing with Libby in the car. She probably would have figured I was pulling one of those old teenage tricks, you know?
Yeah.
Michael Landon directed the TV show you might know, as well as starred in it. So in that scene, Will Wheaton, who was the kid from Stand By Me, he comes running in from that direction over there. He comes running right up here to the gas station. His mother's ex-boyfriend, I believe, and there was a soda machine right here, and he kicks it to get free sodas. And John comes out, and he admonishes little Will Wheaton, and he takes off. He's a little brat in the film. It was 2 years before Stand By Me was filmed. Now this is being used for storage, but this is approximately where the camera was for this scene here.
Please, don't do that. Come on, Max, please.
Back in December of 1984, there were 2 gas pumps here, one on both sides. And this is right where that scene was shot with Robin Dearden and John Lawler, where they reunite. Michael Landon and Victor French are parked across the street, looking back here at this direction. Michael Landon was actually an angel in that series, and he had very human feelings when he met Robin Dearden. It was feeling affection for her. He was jealous with the character John Lawler. He decided his mission as an angel would not be fulfilled if he started meddling with things, so he backed off. So it was about right here, Michael Landon and Victor French was sitting in a car, looking out over the character actors who were over there. And then they take off in that direction.
I'd like to treat you to dinner tonight.
That'd be nice, Earl.
Let's go.
A young lady stopped and was asking if she could help me because I think her father lives here. She was probably a little suspicious that I was milling around here. And I told her that Michael Landon filmed a scene here, and she did not know that. Of course, she looked like she was probably not even alive at the time that he was here. So I was actually privileged to see Michael Landon filming that particular episode of Highway to Heaven, only it was at a different location close by at Lake Tulloch. He was cordial with me and was more than happy to pose for photographs. About a week or two later, I caught up with him in LaGrange, where they were also filming another episode of that show, and I had a chance to talk to Michael Landon and Victor French and get a few more autographs from them. Michael Landon died in, I believe, July 1990 of pancreatic cancer. This was a store and a rock shop at one time. So that awesome building back there, a Gothic style building, is the Congregational Church. It was built in 1866. It's still being used as a church today. If you look right down here, this big block of marble, it says what? International Odd Fellows 1862. Now I'm assuming that is kind of the step people got off their horse and buggy to step on to go up here and go into the church. That's an awesome building. This building, with its authentic Gothic windows, was built at a cost of $12,000 and presented to the Congregational Society. It's also built of clay brick, some of which came from Colombia. From 1910 to 1939, it was owned by the Oddfellows, and in 1939, the Mineral Lodge offered the building to the township. It's actually the oldest Gothic church here in California, still being used as a church. I understand in 1999 the California Conservation Corps had an engineering structural study done on the building and found out that the roof was not attached to the building. Came over here to the Copperopolis Elementary School. This is the site where the original schoolhouse was located. Unfortunately, it burned down. They built another school here, and then they built this school here. But at this location, they have two historical artifacts from the early days of Copperopolis. So right over here is an 1837 cannon. It was used for training and ceremonial purposes by the Union Guard, who stood guard over this town. It shot 6-pound balls and was kept at or near the Armory. So this cannon here dates back to 1837. Stood guard over this town during the Civil War in the 1860s. Right next to it is this old bell. It was cast in 1860, and it hung in the original school that was built in 1865. That school burned down in 1907. The school was replaced by a two-story building that was torn down in 1967, and it was replaced by this school that stood on the same location. Cute little park here called Copper Park, and they've got a little historical setup here where you can read a little bit more about the town of Copperopolis. This giant sign here, probably dedicated by E. Clampus Vitus, talks about Black Bart being here at Funk Hill. Actually, Funk Hill is a couple of miles east of here. In 1875, Black Bart robbed a stagecoach. We visited that site. Now, Funk Hill would be over in that direction. Let's go look at some of this stuff. They just have this equipment scattered. I don't think it had anything to do with Copperopolis. Perhaps this did. What is this? Some kind of machine. Looks like a saw. This is an old saw. Check it out. An electrical saw. Here we have a sign that says, although Copperopolis is known for copper mining, gold was discovered here in 1858, copper in 1860. The gold belt was a mile west of the copper belt. That's interesting, I didn't know that. This equipment is from the Defiance mine, used for mining purposes. I was wrong, all of this equipment was used here. This was used at the Mountain King mine. So the battery had 5 stamps all this rusty old iron. Here's the concentrator pine log mine. It's used to keep the sulfides stirred up. This is a steam boiler from the Defiance mine, used to produce power to run the mines. Check it out. I believe it says Ames Ironworks. Now, Oakes Ames was a congressman in the 1860s, 1870s. He bought the mines. He was a well-known figure in Washington, D.C. He invested in the mines in Copperopolis even after the boom ended in about 1867. Now here's a skip cart. It's used for the incline shaft. So the angle there was so that when it went up out of the mine shaft, it would kind of be vertical. It was used to bring the ore out of the mine shaft. Check it out. Here's an old pulley system, probably used to pull the men and the ore carts out of the mine. The giant cables are still on it. There's a double drum hoist used from the Royal Mine. Yep, it was used to hoist the ore from the mine and raise and lower the men from the bottom. And pretty thick cable. So if you'd have been here about 160 years ago, this all would have been just open, wild land, but they've developed this into a town square type facility a couple miles away from the main historic town of Copperopolis. And it's been here about 10, 12 years. And it's a beautiful little town square with shops all around. And look at this, town hall. Part of it is the Gateway Hotel. You can stay here. It just so happens that one of my favorite barbecue places is right over there. It's called Griff's Barbecue.
Don't be surprised if you visit the California Motherlode and conjure up images of desperate men breaking their backs in toil for that elusive, beautiful metal. Many of those men were quite young and spent lonely years in isolation away from their maws and their paws, their brides and their offspring. Some of those men never returned home, falling victim to mine accidents, violent robberies and gunfights, and diseases easily cured today by modern medicine. In our companion video, we'll visit the cemetery of Copperopolis and hope that you'll join us.